I want to recap a slide that Jat put up on stage and stress the importance of this. You know, if your customers are only spending 17% of their time with sales teams, I mean, I think now more than ever, marketing is having a more important role in their organization. I mean, if they're not with your sales team, they're with you and your content. So the fact that you know, running integrated campaigns is going to be more impactful than ever is a really important point. And you know, to validate this is showing you an actual buyer's journey. You know, this is from Airbus, looking at the topic of SD-WAN and networking solutions, but we could pick any topic and at an enterprise account it's going to look very similar to this. And what you're seeing here is there's 16 active TechTarget members that are all researching around this topic. And they've engaged with 120 activities. And you can see there's a variety of different job titles, which, you know, validates what Mike was saying before. And they're consuming a lot of content, so 70 vendor assets between this team. And this is why single channel marketing is a lot less effective these days, because the old way of marketing is you do content syndication, you might generated one download, let's say in September, October, you pass that to your sales team, it sits in their queue, they make 5 calls, they deem it a bad lead. You know, they don't have access to everything else going on at that buy team. And integrated marketing allows you to have different touch points with brand and content through marketing automation to influence this journey and have a more intelligent conversation. So I thought that would be good to set the stage, and I'd like to now ask the panelists to give a brief introduction of themselves, you know, their current job role and what their day-to-day job looks like, just some context for your future answers.
Cool. Good morning, everyone. My name is Romain Doutriaux. I'm the EMEA marketing director at Dataiku. Dataiku is developing an advanced analytics software. So I'm trying to cover, all the marketing activities in EMEA, from awareness to lead gen with ABM and so on and so forth.
Hi everyone, I'm Kalpna Patel. I'm marketing operations in EMEA for Dell Boomi, part of Dell Technologies. And I help support a team of field marketing managers with our marketing technology we use, the processes, the data, and reporting and insights.
Great. Phill?
Hi. Wow. Such a beautiful venue, isn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
I feel privileged. Thanks for inviting me. My name is Phill. I'm the UK paid media manager for Rackspace. Been in digital marketing for about 8 years. Did a stint in the sales before that. Been at Rackspace for about 2.5 years, working with our internal campaigns team, our partner team, and our alliance team, helping the guys execute digital strategies.
Thanks, Phill.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Vaz. I head the EMEA and APJ demand generation and marketing operations for Proofpoint. I have 2 hats, demand generation and marketing operations, which is a challenge in itself, but it actually allows me to get closer to that revenue seat. So it's a great marriage, I would say.
Great. And I have a few prepared questions, but please, if you have a question throughout this, we don't have to wait till the end, chime in, raise your hand, and we'll get you a microphone. They've all agreed to, they maybe want to answer your question, but they've agreed to take questions from the audience. So
Nothing too difficult, please.
Yeah. Talk about the venue with Phill. That's a good one. So integration, we have integrated marketing, integration with systems, we have integrating within teams. We talked about that a lot in the previous panels. So let's start with systems. How important is integrating systems within your campaigns to make them successful? And whoever wants to chime in first, I won't pick on anyone.
I'll go there
Okay.
with marketing technology. So
yeah, the integration company.
Yes, Dell Boomi is an integration company. If you've got any data management issues or any API integration issues, look up Dell Boomi. Now that's done. So basically, systems integration for us is so important. There's so much data out there that we as marketers have to, consolidate and give the view to the salesperson. So We recently bought on TechTarget Priority Engine, and we had to give visibility to sales. But what we did was I think someone before asked the question, how did you get that data integrated? Did you have to work with BizOps? Well, no, we did it through our marketing systems. So we own our marketing automation tool. We put it into there to make sure the data gets deduped, and then gave sales visibility through Salesforce, because we've got a Marketo and Salesforce sync. And through this integration, you are able to give the BDRs or whoever you're trying to give the visibility of the data to, all the data touch points, so all the intent data, the links to Priority Engine direct, and basically make that data visible to them, because what you're trying to do is consolidate all that data. So then you've got, all the different campaigns you're running. So, although this is just intent data, you might be sending them email campaigns. So you've got all the clicks, what they've engaged with. Again, the whole activity matters. If you're running retargeting ads, you've got that information, and they can see all the activity in one place. So systems integration is really important, and making sure the campaigns are all sort of, the activity on the campaigns is visible as well, which helps them build the story for the conversation.
And I believe your automation team sits in the U.S., but this is a common challenge that European marketers face, is that the marketing automation is controlled out of the U.S. and it doesn't always get up and running quickly, and it's not easy to make changes throughout the process. So you have a bit of a background with Marketo, so maybe give some tips on how you've worked with the US to get the campaign integrated quickly.
It was really simple, to be honest. It's basically about knowing which data fields you want to integrate. You literally get an API name, and you send that data, and you've obviously someone's got admin rights in Marketo. You give that information to them, they plug it in, and that's it, you're live. It's just making sure you map the flow out of the data before, and really understand what data you want to make visible to sales, what data you want to make visible to marketing, because the data is used by different people in different ways, and that's so important.
Yeah. Monica?
I would echo the same within my marketing ops hat. It's critical, actually, because you're as good as your data, and static data is nothing. So data is dynamic. So having that integration is critical for the success of a marketing campaign or any marketing approach. Either if it's more traditional, or actually you're walking towards a much more of an ABM, data-driven intelligence, you need that integration. And if it's either driving it through your marketing automation or driving it through your sales CRM system, it doesn't actually matter. It's how you do the connection towards what is the business goal, and setting up the strategy for your programs, and actually the business objectives from a marketing and sales and actually a revenue perspective. It's actually what is going to drive that conversation.
Okay, thank you. Phill?
Yeah, I suppose very similar to you guys. I think when I'm thinking about integration for the team, it's what does sales want to see? What's going to be useful to them? What's going to be useful to me? Where are my levers in terms of optimizations that I can make to improve on the quality of what's coming through to the team? This, as you saw earlier, that dashboard, that really amazing dashboard. There's a lot in there.
The
for
one
me,
that we all want to build now.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. For me, that would be absolutely amazing. But I'm thinking, like, for the likes of sales, when I've been having conversations, they're very keen on seeing the bits that are important to them, and I guess every salesperson has their approach, and what might be important to one salesperson hopefully is important to the other salesperson, but there's additional things that you can provide, and I guess when you're integrating for marketing, making sure things like your display activity is integrated through the likes of double-click campaign manager, so you can start to see things like post-impression influence of the display activities that you're running across the network. It depends on what you want to see, and I guess you've got to have a good idea of what that is before you go ahead and integrate everything.
Romain?
Well, I think on my side at Dataiku, we really got no excuse, as we're supposed to develop an analytics software. So we got everything connected, integrated. It looks pretty well on paper, even though I'm quite jealous of your setup, to be honest. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the people, to the SDR, BDR, and sales team connections, things don't seem to rely only on the system integration. It's slightly more difficult than that, but I'll be happy to share some sad story afterwards. Don't worry.
Yes, I just wanted to say something else. So one thing I've noticed as well is like when we first started working with TechTarget, we weren't integrated into anything. We were piloting the data essentially, and we just did a mass export and followed up on it and just wanted to see what leads we could generate from that. And we got leads, and we were surprised because we didn't think that we would. We really wanted to understand how you get a better conversion rate out of that, and we started to see that there's pots of value there that can be shared across the business, and I guess where you spot that value is where you start to integrate to try and drive that value to the right person.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to belabor the point, but I mean, we do work with a lot of clients that could be 3, 4, 5 months, and just the basic integration of integrating the data into Marketo still hasn't happened. And Voula brought up the point earlier, I think maybe a lot of times people are trying to overcomplicate Marketo and trying to figure out the exact flow before just starting to send out emails. So I know I didn't prepare you on this, but like, when you run a campaign, how quickly should it be integrated? Are we talking weeks, a month?
If I can answer that one, I think the key is definitely simplicity. You need to truly understand what is your end goal, and that really starts by looking at the resources you have and being realistic as a starting point. Then actually, for a marketeer, you're given a budget and objectives and access plays that you need to drive revenue against. And by the time you start doing your plan, you're like, and excuse the language, I do swear quite a lot, but you're like, shit, I need content for awareness to decision. I need integration to be in place. I need data. I need email programs, streams builds. And then you look around and there's 2 of you. So keeping that simplicity, it's key. And sometimes, that means different levels of integration. So when we started working with TechTarget, we were doing spreadsheets imports into Marketo and trying to really build on that knowledge and understand how we could drive that across our nurture streams, how we could push it further across the funnel. And from there, it actually gave us much more clarity on how to drive that integration further. So now I'm happy to say that we are getting into a great place and actually starting to push it even further.
Great.
I think for me, when we talk about time, how much time, I feel that pressure kind of comes from the business. You got to drive results. You got to drive them now. You might not be in a place to carve out this beautiful integrated marketing strategy because you've got a target that needs to be delivered at the end of the quarter. So, we do have a few taps that we switch on that might not be the best practice, but it gets us some results. So sometimes, you just got to go with what you've got set up. But obviously, when time is a luxury, and when you've got that time, you can really start to delve into the data and find the opportunity.
So it's so true, keep it simple. We did, we switched TechTarget on, and it's intent data. It's not leads, it's data that's you've got to now engage with to make it a lead, make it your MQL, depending on how you've defined what an MQL is in your business. So literally, I think it was just me involved in the project, and I put together a simple 5-email nurture program. The first one is who we are, what we do. Second one was, we're a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader 6 years in a row. Perfect message, unbiased message. The third one, I think, was some kind of content asset. It was like 10 reasons why people choose iPass. A really simple nurture program, really, really simple, and that's still going, but we are working on, some more complex nurture programs like Susanna's built out there, using follows as a content journey mapping so we can have a look at what other content they're downloading to then tie in all that data, with the TechTarget information that we get.
Yeah, if I try to make a balance between like the quick campaigns I need to set up and like the longer ones, the one I can try to spend more time on is probably going to be like 80% against 20%. Like the latest one is probably the campaign we're deploying following the coronavirus around the EMEA. Like obviously we're going to miss a lot of leads from all the events that are not going to happen in March. How can we try to get more leads online? How can we try to be relevant to this audience? And so we basically set up the campaign 2 days ago, and we started discussing it last Friday. And it's quite basic. 1 landing page, 2 free workflow emails, but still it kind of works pretty well.
And there's different levels of integration, as I mentioned before. So, it's not just integration of systems, it's integration on your messaging, is alignment to your brand, but actually integration with your sales teams, with your SDRs, BDRs. So that in itself drives a lot, even if you don't have an integration between a CRM and a Marketo, an integration with TechTarget, is that continuity and consistency across your program that really drives the revenue.
I was just going to add that, don't be scared, get started, but think of, I'm one person that supports 6 different field market managers that support anything from 50 to 100 salespeople. If I managed to do it, the reason I did it was so I've got an always-on demand engine that just keeps running in the background. I'm not having to think about, oh God, where are we going to, get these leads from? And it's leads that are actually showing interest, and now we need to engage with them and make them aware that we are a vendor in the market that you should be looking at. And that's, that's our goal. And then for the salesperson to reach out to them. I
think that's a really good point. And I mean, Barry brought it up. I think he said there was 8 marketers supporting 450 salespeople. And a lot of times, if you look at what a U.S. team looks like, it's 3-4 times the size of the European team. So, and their expectation is that the European team should be doing all the same things. It's just not possible because there's less time to do so. So it's just, I think the key takeaway there is simplicity. Get it started. You can make tweaks along the way, but trying to build a really complex nurture strategy from go is difficult.
I think as long as you set expectations on what that's the outcome's likely to be.
Yeah. And Monica, I mean, this leads into the next questions about integrating between departments. I will say this is our 11th ROI Summit. I said the agenda's changed drastically. One thing that's always been on the agenda is marketing and sales alignment. We still haven't figured that out as an industry. But I think Jat's panel and the guys had some really good tips. But when you're running a campaign, you're integrated with systems. How important is integrating with your sales teams, BDR, SDR teams, in order to see success?
I would say it's critical, and actually here TechTarget was a massive shift for us because it allows us to increase that enablement, not only on the marketing program, but also on the level of data that we were providing to the business. So it goes from, simple education on the messaging and the USPs that you're conveying on your program, but also education on how to maximize that data that you're providing them. And anything that you discuss around data and BI and metrics, it always gets people nervous. But actually, sometimes all you need to show them is the small value of them being able to digest that data-driven intel. Yeah. And it's actually pretty simple. And leveraging TechTarget really allows us to take them on that journey. And they could see the marketing perspective and how we need to go to market when we are building our programs, and actually build their own engagements as a continuity of the marketing program.
And how do you get them to be receptive? I mean, up front,
really showing them the data.
Just like, here's the data, this is going to help.
Yeah, exactly. And having access to TechTarget drove that demand for engagement from the sales team. Yeah. So most of the times when we started, we were the ones knocking on their doors constantly to tell them more about our programs, the amazing results that we were collecting for them, and all the leads that they were leaving in the system. Once we opened the universe to actually give them access to that data and all the intel from TechTarget, we actually have now sales coming to us to get more information on the program, to understand what is the additional value that they can see from the different tactics.
Great.
So it's a big shift, just showing the data.
Wow, good. Phill?
Yeah, I think when I'm working with sales, they drive this essentially. If they can't convert the leads that I'm generating or that the team's generating for them, then everything I'm doing is absolutely pointless. So I try to ensure that I'm using them as a guideline as to what I'm doing, what information is useful. When we first launched and we provided this great dashboard, here's all of it, look at all of this intent data. Oh, this is amazing, it's amazing. But then nobody did anything with it. So it was really important for me to raise a profile of this and to say, look at you're under your target this month. Here, look at this, look at this account here. It's downloaded 6 pieces of content, and having to physically go and have those conversations sometimes to show the value. And I think as soon as they see that there's value there, then it's going to be the other direction.
Having individual conversations with
sometimes that's right. Yeah, sometimes it takes that. When I'm seeing things are stuck in the funnel and they're not being worked, and I'm trying to understand why. I'd have that conversation. What's happening here? How is it progressing? What have you done so far? Just to try and make sure that we're doing the right things for the data. As you've said, 18 touches now. We're at Rackspace. We've the team are used to dealing with inbound, so I think they were using like 7 touch points, and if it wasn't doing anything after 7 touch points, then it's no good. And I'm like, no, that's not enough. Listen to TechTarget, they're telling us it's 20, so let's do a bit more here. Let's see if we can. This is still good data, and it's about trying to convince them that this is of value to them. I think that's what it is, and proving that value.
You need to give them the tools, definitely, and those tools are from copy for emails, for LinkedIn messages, for social. You need to give them all of that, but it's really showing the funnel of the data that, at least for us at Proofpoint, it really made a shift. The TechTarget alerts on their accounts makes a huge difference. And if you have the tools that you have provided to them and they can digest that data, then that's when you see the results.
I was just going to say another feature that's quite cool that we've used to try and convince sales to get in the platform, because we've got our sales team set up with their own views of their account list, etc., is the analytics that you guys provide. So the time that a salesperson's been in the platform and the amount of pages that they've looked at, all of that, if you're sharing that with their manager, the likelihood is that they're more likely to get in the platform.
Yeah, this is rubbish, it's no good. And you're like, you haven't logged in 3 months.
Exactly.
The correlation between that and their success.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's a hard conversation to have, but yeah.
I think communication is key. So we, and thanks to Lindsay and Vula in the room, who get on we get on BDR briefing calls regularly. We have separate field market manager calls. So with the field market managers, we're addressing things like, what should their account list look like? So yes, we've got our strategic accounts, but we don't want to miss out on anyone who's searching for us. So we've set up like inbound visit accounts. We've got why don't you put all your last 2 fiscal years stale opportunities in? Let's see who's looking at it again. There's, events, if you've got an event attendee list, put them in there. You can see who's engaging now, who you can actually have conversations at the event with. There's so many things you can do.
So much opportunity.
So much you can do. So we have regular sessions with them to get their ideas sort of going about what they're doing in their plans and things. And then with the BDRs, we talk to them about we've got quite a few campaigns running with TechTarget. So we've got the priority engine tool, but we've got content syndication, we've got keyword takeovers happening. So they're getting some leads from different campaigns at the moment with TechTarget, and it's getting on calls with them to make them not only understand where the data sits in our CRM system, but what does that data mean to them and how do they use it? And that's where Lindsay and Vula are brilliant at giving them best practice, of what's worked from a TechTarget perspective. We then, say this is how you should be using the data. Don't just phone up and say, hey, I realise, you've been looking at content around this segment, because that is not going to work. It's got to be what Andy from Ring Central was talking about. Yeah. You've got to get on the phone with them, use that data to your advantage, make it seem to them like, oh my God, you're reading my mind. Yes, I've been looking into this, and then that natural conversation, that spark happens, and it, actually ends up being an opportunity at some point.
Great. Romain?
Yeah, I would all agree with you guys. I think at the end of the day, it's all about showing the value. And I think at Dataiku, I will always remember it was like 3 years ago, and we had like our CEO doing like a press tour around the office. And so he came to the marketing department, and he was like, and so there are the guys handling our Twitter account. And that was a bit of a shock to us. We're like, oh wow, that's where the company sees us. And so that really created like a shift where we started buying TechTarget, where we started working much more on the intent data, and also try to communicate, just as you put it, with the BDR, the SDR, the sales team on a daily basis. Another thing that we found recently is being more advanced on metrics. So of course we're able to monitor most of our activities, but we also came up with tools that let us monitor the BDR, the SDR activity, that let us show the impact of our campaign in terms of influence, in terms of ABM, and at the end of the day, we became the department who get most of the metrics around the company, and that made us extremely credible. So that's just another tool we use on a daily basis, but yeah, the fight goes on and on and on and on.
That's good. I think, I mean, Romain, you mentioned, previously you were buying these campaigns, send it to the SDR team, and kind of had your fingers crossed, hoping they would follow up. And you've gotten a lot more involved. You even mentioned you were helping write some email copy to have so they can have better outcomes. Because the last thing you want is send over a really highly active account, and the first email is you download a white paper. Can I have a meeting to talk about your project? We just know that doesn't work. So you got to the point like marketing was actually writing email copy for the SDRs.
Yeah, actually, well, the first mistake we did once we bought TechTarget, we were like, as a marketing person, I was, wow, that's the holy grail. I'm going to push it to my SDR, BDR, and I'm done. And guess what? No. So it took us around 1 to 2 years to actually get them into the tool, get them to understand the tools, and then we realized in terms of the outbound, or even the way they handled the inbound request we had, there was basically no management, no guidance. So indeed, at the moment, we are working with them to optimize all the sequences that are being pushed to our leads. And it's painful, it's tedious, and it's really annoying, but at the end of the day, if we don't do it, we're not going to get much out of it.
Yeah, same journey here. It's painful.
I think one thing that's helped massively is the support that we've had from TechTarget with sales training. And I know I felt a little bit uncomfortable trying to teach salespeople how to sell again, and obviously where the guys have set up those sessions, you feel like you're teaching someone that suck eggs, but it's a different set of data here. You need to work it slightly differently, and I think that's really helped just to give them a clear understanding of the best follow-up approach and what this information means that they see in front of them.
We've changed that to best practice sessions, because the word training to a sales team, they're immediately put off. Something we learned along the way. I mean, Andy, when he was our BDR manager, would go in and we'd have a great training. They'd come back and say, oh, they were really engaged, and then we'd look at the usage over the next 2 weeks, and it would just kind of fizzle. And I think one thing Barry's talked about 450 people, how active they are in Edison. Well, he mentioned the test. I mean, early on they weren't active, and he found the group in the Nordics that was behind their numbers. They were hungry. I don't know, was it 20, Barry, or how many people in the Nordics? About 20 people in the Nordics. He got them adopted on Edison. They started seeing results, and you know what? Okay, I'll take it to the wider teams. And the same thing applies with you. If you have 10 BDRs, Phill, you mentioned maybe one person's behind their number. Let's go make a difference with him or her, and then they're a use case for you to go get more adoption.
That's exactly what we did, actually. We cherry-picked our BDRs, and we use them as a use case. And it's not perfect. It's far from being perfect, but we are getting there. And actually, the TechTarget support is massive on this journey.
Another thing that we did that kind of helped to ignite the sales team a little bit was when we exported a load of contacts, we shared a proportion of those with an external follow-up agency. And I'll say, am I okay to say they are? Engage Tech did a fantastic job of following up on all of our exports, and then we gave a bunch of prospects to our internal team, and we wanted to see the difference between how the guys are working it, and we actually saw that the approach that our external agency was taking was working better, and we got to understand why that was the case, and it's because they had already had an established network of contacts within that organization. So you've identified an opportunity through the data, and then you're using your existing contacts to have that conversation, to arrange that meeting. So one thing that they took away from that was that it wasn't just about speaking to this one contact that we've exported. They wanted to go into the priority engine and look at other members of the buying team and take a broader approach to getting into that account as opposed to just that one contact.
You just stole what I was going to say. So it's
Sorry.
it's changing the mindset. It's basically like exactly what you said. Like it's, usually we're used to just sending a lead and they call that one person. But what Priority Engine allows you to do is look at the buying group and look at all the other contacts, put your story, your research together, take all the topic interests, what vendors they're looking at, and actually build a conversation, that's ready, that's going to get a yes, I'm happy to speak to you again kind of thing. Also, I think another thing that's changed in the mindset with our inside sales team is, you know, we had personas, and the personas were very rigid. You know, it's this person, these are the titles we sell to. But actually with TechTarget, we're starting to see different titles, and it's because buy-in groups are changing all the time. You know, sometimes it could be a HR person that comes into we sell, software. So it could be someone who is not in your usual sort of persona title group, who comes in because they're part of a larger business project and they want to see how it runs across all departments. So it's nice to see that we're seeing like other titles enter into, the intent to buy, as what Barry was saying, it's like who else is, actually wanting to buy your products that you're not aware of because you've based it all around personas and ideal customer profiles, whereas these are people who are actually doing the research, who are researching for a reason.
I don't know about you guys, but with where we work, where I work, sometimes when somebody wins a sale as well, the whole business changes direction. Oh, we see an opportunity in this space here because we've converted a lead into an opportunity and we've got a big bit of revenue out of that. And then the whole strategy changes and everybody's going in that direction to try and capitalize on what that opportunity is. But one thing that, again, the platform's been really good at doing is informing us as to, where the opportunity is. So, we think that that's the opportunity. This is our initiative. Are we seeing people consuming content around the same topics that relate to our initiative? No. So then, why are we trying to change direction? Let's go to where the volume is, where the potential is.
I was going to say, actually, so I can't remember who said it now, but, sales gives us a list of accounts that they're going after, and then we put in lists and we look at, accounts that are showing the intent. And I pulled the results yesterday, and the accounts that we as a marketing team have put together are actually providing more opportunities than those strategic account lists. And yes, those strategic account lists are important, but they could be a year, 2 years of a sales cycle. So really, challenge your salespeople as to whether they're the right accounts that you're going after, or whether, you look at who's actually showing the intent to buy now and see if you have a quicker opportunity conversion.
I think to continue on the BDR, I think one of the key things of leveraging a platform like TechTarget or any level of data-driven intel is that, especially from a marketing campaign perspective, BDRs, if they need to do 18 touch points, 25 touch points, the task in itself can be quite overwhelming. So having means of controlling how you push MQs into their queues is probably your most critical task in your whole marketing program. So if you can leverage data-driven intel to control your nurture streams, to control the cadence of your communications, to keep reinforcing their lead score, to help BDRs to prioritize their follow-up, then that's probably when you're going to find the increase into the conversion, because it gives them a focus and actually gives you a focus as well across your communications. So keeping it simple to that level makes a huge difference to your program.
And I think it's important to get that sales feedback as well. If you're doing something, you think it's the right thing. If at the end of the day the salesperson say this is all wrong, you've got to listen to that.
So, what strategies or risks have you taken that have paid off or failed? We'd rather talk about the ones that have paid off, but anything you can highlight to the crowd?
Guilty as charged. As a marketeer, you always want to make things more complex. So we tried with our nurtures to actually drive deeper engagement on the basis of their behavior, their intent, their propensity, and actually it didn't work that well for us. So but lesson learned. So I think the key is to always have a plan B in place so you can quickly shift on the basis of your learnings. And that's why I said it at the beginning, really keeping it simple will give you the flexibility to actually be able to say, oh shit, this is not working. I need to move and move quick. Because at the end of the day, end of the quarter, someone is going to ask you how many MQLs you have generated, how many were within the list of the target accounts, how many were within your white space, and what is your MQ to SQ conversion. So you need to be fast and quick. So simplicity is a really the KISS model. Keep it simple, stupid is the key.
So yeah, I'm not sure if it was a risk, but I suppose there was an element of risk associated to it. But I think just picking one partner was a bit of a risk. There's lots of obviously intent suppliers of data out there, and you know we've got US counterparts that are working with about 6 or 7 at the same time, running content syndication leads through the Integrate platform, straight into Salesforce. It gets very complex, very messy, very quickly, and there's a lot of data. So you know we really wanted to. You know, we really knew that we were new to this game, and we really wanted our hand held through this process so that we can make the best use of the data that we've got. And you know, I say risk, but you know, we did do our due diligence and go through the motions of speaking to various vendors and looking at the data that they were providing. And one of the things that I suppose stood out for us was the fact that this is all first-party data, you know, and that's a real important point to make, because you know the more partnerships. You know, if you're working with a company that isn't using their own data, it's partnerships and partnerships and partnerships, and that data trail gets weaker and weaker and weaker before it gets to you. The validation of that data, you know, you have to rely on your partner to do that. But when you're working with that first-party data, you know it's captured in the network, it's ring-fenced. This is your world. There's plenty of opportunity there, and you can make some clear decisions.
Great, thank you.
So the only risk I think we've taken is passing the TechTarget data to our BDRs too soon, and that's something which is a time issue on my side, to be honest. Is actually building out a proper nurture, you know, tagging up the data correctly, so they go through like a nurture that's really suitable to them, which can take some time to create. But I'm happy we got started with a simple nurture, and we have now agreed with the BDR team that we will definitely nurture all of that data before it gets to them.
Well, kind of tied with what you said and what Monica shared also, I think our biggest risk was really to switch from a quality to a quantity approach. Like in the past, even only for our target account, we were bringing like thousands of leads, and we were pushing them to the BDR, SDR team, like, yeah, we're done, up to you. But indeed, I mean, the more leads they get, the less attention and the less time they spend per lead, and at the end of the day, it just did not work. So we had to become more picky. We had to accept to only focus on getting like 5 to 6 key leads within the target account, and to focus our energy, our effort, our investment on these 6 specific persons. And that's kind of counterintuitive when you come from a marketing background, when you need to deliver high volumes to satisfy a growing team, where you get like needs and your company wants to expand, and you need to be able to sell a positioning which is more about quality, being extremely picky, rather than delivering very large volume of leads to the sales and BDR team, which is not always easy.
I was going to say, can I get a copy of Mike's funnel he put up there?
Absolutely.
I'll take that back to the business just to show, you know, it is really about the quality, not the quantity, you know, in terms of conversion rates.
Great. So Jat required 2 takeaways. I just require one. One takeaway can be simple or complex, but just one takeaway for, you know, that's something that you've done in your organization that's been successful, and these people in the room could go and implement fairly quickly.
Well, the only takeaway I have at the end of the day is that we're all working in B2B tech, so we are all selling software or products that, of course, are the best of the market. That's a well-known fact. And so, as a marketing team, we got like very advanced technology stack. We got like TechTarget and a few other tools that are amazing. But that at the end of the day, if you're not able to communicate properly with your stakeholders, with the SDR, BDR, sales team, you're probably just wasting your money. It took us 1 year to realize that. See how quick we are. But that's a lesson learned for sure.
Thank you.
So for me, it's I'm a nerd. I love data, and as marketeers, we get negative feedback about our leads all the time. But if it's not backed up with data, you know, don't come to me with it. But find your champion. Find the person who's actually making it work, who's doing really well. You know, what are they doing to do it well? And use those champions to, you know, basically drown out the negativity that could be happening. Because you know what it's like a domino effect where, one person says one thing negative and they all like start getting on the negative. We'll find that positive person, the person who it's really working for. We've actually got a call with someone who next week, I smile at Lindsay, because it's nice to speak to them about, what are you doing? How are you using the tool? How are you getting so much success? You're obviously showing as a power user from the data TechTarget can give us, and that kind of correlates with that success information.
Great, thanks. Phill?
I would say just share the value. Share the value. Keep the profile of what you're doing quite high, because it becomes more important then to everybody in the business, because everybody's looking. And utilize your customer success manager. Get them speaking to the various members of the teams, doing all of the training and all the rest of it, because without them, it's going to be hard.
For me, it comes down to the KISS. So on my demand gen hat, I always think that it's all about relevancy. So your program needs to have those unique USPs. It needs to have the content that supports the buyer journey. So if you don't have that, it's very unlikely that your program is going to succeed. And a lot of them, they fail because of that. On the marketing ops side, I would say, don't make your campaign architecture complex. Make sure that your data points and your taxonomy is in place. Make sure that you have the tools to enable your sales teams and your BDRs. Because if your messaging is strong and it's creating differentiation and you're driving the target audience and your architecture is simple, so you don't have complexity within your systems, then there's truly nothing there that could destroy your program and not make it successful.
Great. Monica, Phill, Kalpna, Romain, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
No worries.